As we're friends in ministry, in a real kind of world, I'm glad I got my word.
It's your friends until the end, help endurance to the end. It's the Friends in Ministry podcast. Tell a friend. It's your girl MC Mia, also known as Mariah,
And it's your girl New Creature, also known as Kamara.
and we are your hosts for the Friends in Ministry podcast. And we thank you for tuning in. Hey, what's going on? We're here with another episode of Friends in Ministry podcast, and the topic is homosexuality. I'm your host, MC Mia, and
I am New Creature.
we have another special guest. Like we said, this whole season is going to be a special guest, but we have Rocket. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, family.
Right. So we'll get started. We'll jump right in. The other episode, we got a chance to talk to your husband. So now we are able to talk to you, and we won't compare, but we really enjoyed your husband. But I can't wait to have a conversation with you. I've been trying to catch up with you since the concert.
Oh,
So, but it's all good. You were instantly like a sister to me. So to be able to actually take the time to hear your story is going to be first row seats for me. So whoever's listening to this now can join on in. So if you can, just kind of open us up, just kind of introduce yourself. You don't have to give a whole thing, but tell us who you are, and anything that you want the people to know.
okay, cool. My name is Rocket. I am a evangelist first, intercessor second, and I'm a Christian rapper. And that's pretty much it about me. I just love God. I'm real simple. I'm very simple, and I just love to serve people. That's my heart. Yeah, I'm very simple.
Awesome. So when we was talking, when it comes to homosexuality, a lot of times people think that you just wake up one day and just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna pursue this today.
Right.
But can you kind of tell us like how your childhood was, just growing up?
Okay.
Explain like how that was.
Okay. Well, my mom put me out when I was like 14. So I had to jump from house to house. Back in the day, my mother, she sold drugs. She did a few things. So grew up kind of rough in Maryland and DC. So a lot of my friends were a lot older. I hung out with like a lot of strippers, a lot of people who were just women who was doing some reckless stuff. But I used to watch their kids and they would show me how to do hair and things like that. So most of the people I hung out with were like people who was always in the streets. And so my mom put me out when I was 14. I went to live with my aunt. And then I jumped from like her house to my older sister's house, and back to my mom's house. So it was always like back and forth, getting in trouble in school. That was pretty much my childhood up until like 17 when I went into the military. So
Okay, so let's hold on for
okay,
a
yes.
minute. So your story pretty much starts when you was 14,
Yep.
basically. Okay, and that's different. You don't really hear that.
It is
Usually people be like, oh, 5, 8, 10, not no 17. You already about, for me, 14, you already about,
Yeah.
gone or whatever.
So for me, like at 14, I was attracted to whoever loved me at that point. It's just that a woman didn't present herself in that manner. I just had a lot of friends that were like dancers. They were like strippers. So you see a lot of things. And then, you have people in your family, and I'm 41. So back then, certain things people just didn't talk about. You know what I'm saying? Like you see things and you just like, oh no, it's like, they'll be like, oh no, that's such and such, that's your aunt. Or that's like your cousin. But you're like, no, I know that something ain't right. They're not a part of our family, and you spend the night over here. I
Right.
don't know you like that. but it was
Yeah,
like
because everybody was aunting them. What about
right.
your aunt?
Right. And you had people like in certain neighborhoods and things like that. But you didn't really, it was never really a topic that was talked about, and I didn't grow up in church like my husband did. So I didn't
Mm,
see it like that. And in DC, you always would see like the streetwalkers, like, but they would be guys, you know what I'm saying? So you didn't think anything of it. It wasn't like your day to day life, this person in your home like that. So it was never even a thought of mine about homosexuality, being gay, anything like that. It just was, I just was very free spirited growing up. So yeah.
so at 14, were you like going? Were they letting you into like the strip clubs and stuff like that? Because that happens.
So it was a little different for me because I grew up in the era of house parties. So,
Oh, yep,
like,
yep.
and then in high school, I had friends who were like in the 10th grade who would go dance at these house parties. So a lot of stuff I was exposed to from house parties, people in the neighborhood, things they
Mm.
would do. In DC, you go to like the Go Go or like the little kitty cabaret. So you go to stuff like that, but not like not strip clubs. And I always looked 14. I always looked my age, so there was no way nobody gonna let me in. I always looked my age. Always. Yes, always.
Man.
Wow. So, like Kamar said, you don't really hear starting at 14, and you were exposed to a
Hmm.
lot at 14. Um, so what you said, I know you said your mom sold drugs, so like, so y'all didn't really get along with each other,
No,
you and your mom.
no, we did initially. No, we didn't, and I think it's that single mother type thing, and you have the older daughter who has to take care of the siblings, and you don't get to
Mm,
be a child.
a
And
child.
especially if you grow up in a certain area where you still don't get to be a child. It's a lot of, it's kind of like I always say it's like that law of the first daughter and the mother. It's always like they bump heads. I would always see that. And so me and my mom were so much alike. And my mom went through some hard things. So it was kind of like she was growing up with me. At the same, I'm growing
Mm,
up with my
Mm.
mom. And, you just the attitudes, we bump heads, and then not understanding what it was like for my mom to be a single mother. Grown now, understand it, but back then you just like, oh, it's unfair. You want me in the house, but you're trying to shield
mm,
me from things that you've been through. But you don't see that when you're younger.
Right.
You think you're missing out on something. So yeah, but we cool now. That's my buddy. That is my buddy.
wow. Okay. So,
Hmm.
military. So you said it wasn't really. So what was it? Something that happened that made it solid. Like, okay,
Okay, so
I'm clearly in a relationship with another female. Because I know you said it was just like just
right.
exposed. Like,
Hmm.
so it didn't really have a name to it. Just was like, I mean, it's turn around. Oh, that's just the norm.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. I
Right.
had never one because I always would think that women were so beautiful because when you deal with low self-esteem, you're looking at all the great things in this other person, and I can never understand why dudes would treat females like a certain way. So I always had in my mind that I was like, okay, I like guys, but they suck right now. So I don't want to be with nobody because I saw my mom went through or different people went through. So when I got in the military, that was the first time that I really had a friend that was like straight up close to me that was like a lesbian. And that was like unheard of because in the military it was don't ask, don't tell when I came in.
Oh, I remember
Yeah.
that when they did
Because
that.
I came in 2000, 99, 2000.
That was during the Bush
Yeah,
area,
it was
right?
like
And that's when
don't
he did
ask,
that.
don't tell. But when I tell you everybody and their mama was like that, so it was like I had a friend in Korea, and matter of fact, she's the first person who I ever recorded anything with because I used to be so shy, and that's how we became cool because she heard me sing one day at work, and she had a little recording studio in her barracks room. So I would go in there and record with her. She was from the Virgin Islands. She was super, super nice. She never tried anything. I saw her like with a girl one time, and I was like, I never thought of her being like that because she looked super feminine. And mind you, I didn't know anything about the life You know what I'm saying? So good life. Um,
Right. Right.
but so when I saw her in the club with like this female, I just was like, it kind of triggered something in me because I was already in like a weird relationship with a guy, which happened to be my first husband, and it was just not the greatest. So I was like, okay, I'm only 17. Well, I'm 18, and I don't really know who I am as a woman. I like this is my first relationship with a man, and he's 26, and I'm 18, and he's trying to teach me how to be a woman, or to grow up and be a woman because he's
Man.
ready for a wife, and I'm 18. And this man has like 4 kids. I don't know anything about that. I just know, hey, it's cool. I'm in the military. I met you. We in Korea. We having fun. You want to get married? What? So, and then I meet this girl who she's super cool. And then they have the basketball team. Now, I can't play basketball to save my soul, but they were like, you should be on the basketball team. I'm like, yeah, no. So I just went because they were really cool. And she
Mm.
had a friend, and her friend was like, have you ever thought about being with females? Because people just thought by association that I was like that. And I
Yeah.
would always be like, matter of fact, I would get an
Yeah.
argument. I'm sorry.
Especially if you playing
Right. And here's the
basketball.
thing,
Something
I
about
ain't
if you on a
even
basketball
playing.
team, everybody kind of know like, oh, if you on a
Hmm.
basketball team, you got to be
Yeah.
gay.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is
I
about
don't know.
the
I don't
gay
know.
spirit on the
Yep.
basketball. I don't get that. I
I
still
It's
don't
don't
just
understand
weird
that.
to
me
But
me.
either.
But it was like
Very weird.
people would like it like so it would give me in arguments with my first husband about he's like he would, suspect things, and I'm like in my mind, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like I'm like, no, they are really
Right.
cool. Like it's nothing like that. I'm just excited we're doing
It's not what it
right.
looks like.
I'm like,
Right.
we
right.
doing
So
okay, go ahead.
Pause for a second. So just in case
Okay.
somebody's asking, because I'm asking
Okay.
this myself. So at 18, you was
I was
already married.
engaged. I was engaged. I married
Okay.
him. He became my first husband. Yeah. So I was engaged
Okay.
at 18. We got married when I was 19.
Okay, so you said you got
Mm-hmm.
married when you're not. So you were saying when he was asking you these questions, Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Suspicious, y'all were already
No, we
married
were
then, or
we
that
were
y'all were just
engaged.
engaged?
We were engaged.
Okay,
And
gotcha.
so when he would ask me these questions, I'm like, in my mind, why are you asking me this? Like, I'm with you. These are my friends. And then mind you, I just came from a certain culture that's cool to be cool with everybody. So I'm not thinking anything of it. So when I left Korea, I ended up getting stationed somewhere by Texas. I ended up getting stationed in Texas. And when I was in Texas, I got exposed to more things. And so I had a friend in Texas who was in the army, and this y'all, it's like I just thought the stripper spirit would always it just kept following me. I don't know if it's because I liked to dance back then or just I don't know, but I had a friend who she was a dancer. She would drive to Austin on the weekends and go strip, but she was in the army. And so she was just very promiscuous, very like open about stuff. And so she was like, have you ever thought about, being with a woman? And I was like, no, I never thought about it. I was like, I'm freaked out. I just think women are beautiful and left it at that. When I finally got married and moved to Colorado, that's when like the floodgates opened because I met a girl from Baltimore who, mind you, I'm from Maryland, DC area. I met somebody from
Right.
Baltimore, and in my mind, I was like, she is like the coolest person on earth. Like she could dress, she could rap. She just was cool, and so she ended up becoming like my big sister. How I met her was on a deployment because everybody was like, "Oh, I need my hair braided," and they're like, "Oh, well, Shamir, Rocket, whatever, she braids hair." So she came over. We started talking. She never said she was gay, but I could, you just tell. And so we became real, real cool. We left that deployment. We came back to the States. I just started going to the club with them. Just so happened it was gay clubs. First gay club I had ever been to. Y'all, that's a whole nother story. I was like, not freaked out, but I was kind of like, because I liked to dance back then. So I'm like, look, I'm just going to dance. I'm not thinking anything of it. But I would go so much
Mm.
with them, and then we would go to strip clubs, and then it just became so much easier to consider it. So I
Mhm.
still up until that point, never did anything with a woman, never kissed a woman, never looked at a woman a certain way, nothing. Well, went on our second deployment. Marriage was like chaotic, and she had a soldier who was like a cook or whatever. She had just got to our unit. And this girl, I thought she was just being super nice to me. I was real green back then, y'all. I'm like, I'm not even
Yep.
knowing like this girl trying to holler at me. I'm thinking she just want
Yep.
her hair braided. She's younger than me, and plus I'm super nice to everybody. So I'm like, she's a
Yep.
newer soldier. She don't know anybody. This is her first deployment. I'm not thinking of it because at the time, my husband, who I was married to, we're both deployed together, so we're in the same place. So I just became real cool with
Mm.
her, and I think once again by association, like the girls I hung with, you just knew that they were like that. It was like inevitable. If I showed you pictures, you'd be like, yeah, okay. So it's
Like, Rocket, what were you
like
thinking?
right.
Like, you,
But
you
in my
couldn't see
mind, I'm
that?
like, my husband out here, and no, I ain't like that. And I'm telling y'all, like the thought was never like
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it, And I was nervous and scared because I was like, yeah, no, if it gets out. And then my first husband, our marriage was very abusive. So I'm like, if he finds this out, this man probably gonna kill me, like straight up.
Mm.
So what happened was me and her ended up getting on guard duty together. And so we began talking, and then she was like, well, this sergeant had tried to talk to me. And so when she said his name, she was like, y'all got the same name. She was like, wait a minute. And I said, well, what he look like? Because I mean, I had a common last name. And when she said, I said, wait, what do he look like? And he light skinned, green eyes. I mean, he was the only one in our unit that looked like that. And I just bust out laughing, right? Because mind you, I'm married to him, but he's trying to talk to her and she's trying to talk to me.
Mm.
But I don't know that yet. So
Wow.
I
Wow.
used to have this thing, right? When you deploy, you get all these DVDs. Like I don't know how they get movies and shows like 12 months before everybody else in the States get them. But I had this book of DVDs, and in the DVDs was the show, the L Word. So we used to watch the L Word all the
Yo,
time. Like I was
yo,
addicted to that joint.
yo. I
Yes.
remember that
And
show.
so
No, not no idea.
She's like, I don't even know what that
right, so
is.
I'm watching this show. Now mind you, I'm watching this show. This girl likes me, and all of my friends are gay.
Okay, so because we probably gonna have listeners
What's the
be
L
like,
word?
what are they talking about? Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
the L word, pretty much, I'm pretty sure L represent
Mm-hmm.
lesbian, right? Right. So it's literally a
Mm-hmm.
gay show about a bunch of females and their life and stuff like that. So if you was not gay, never been around it, if you watched that show, you was going
Yeah.
to become gay. That's how
Yeah.
perverted that
Yeah.
show was. Stuff that you would
Wow.
never thought about. If you watched it, you wouldn't want to
Right.
do it then.
It.
Like that was I don't even know how I was able to start watching that, but yeah, that
Yes.
was the show for
Wow.
anybody back then.
Yep. It was it. And then you're on a deployment. You're in the middle of nowhere, so you're just watching
Mm.
shows. And so
You're literally filling yourself up with
yes,
like getting heated. So it's like, how can I express
right.
this somehow? It's literally setting
Right.
you up for a
And then
trap.
they set you up in the show because they make you think there are these healthy relationships. And then you're in a jacked up relationship. So you're like, well, maybe it is better over here. You're thinking that. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was time and chance. The enemy had a window. I wasn't saved then. That's the other thing. So she comes over to get her hair braided or whatever. And so she's like, well, turn some on. So I'm watching the L Word. I ain't thinking nothing of, like I told y'all, I'm so green. I'm watching the L Word, and then she just reached over and kissed me. I was like, bruh, like in my mind. First of all, I was freaked out because I was like, now this could go three ways. One, I could lose my rank. I could get locked up because you have roommates, and I'm like, what if my roommate walk in and then I'm like, one, I've never experienced those type of situations before. Um, the
Mm.
third thing, I was like, this person knows my husband, and my husband's literally like two trailers down. He could walk in, and so I was like, you gotta roll. But when she left, in my head, I was like, well, why did she have to roll? Like, you know what I'm saying? You really didn't mind it that much. Maybe you should explore this because your friends are in these relationships and they seem like they good and they happy with who they
Definitely
with,
seed planted.
and you beefing with who you married to. Y'all arguing every day at war. So, long story short, we decided to pursue that relationship. That went on for that whole deployment. Like my husband, at the time, he never knew. It went on all the way up to maybe 2 years after that, after I got stationed somewhere else. And then when I got saved. I'm sorry.
So how long was your
My
deployment?
About 15 months. It was 15 months. Yep.
So 15 months
plus the
plus
2
the two
years. Yeah.
years. So
Yeah,
that's
about
basically
three,
like three
three and some
years and
change.
change.
And so it was more so
Wow.
like long distance because she still was in Colorado and I was stationed in Virginia with my husband at that time. I was like working myself up to tell him that I'm like, I want to get divorced. Me and her were like, we gonna get married. Like this was before gay marriage was a thing because we used to, my
Mm.
friends who were gay, they would do these little commitment ceremonies and I'd go sing at the ceremony, read the little vows, we making dinner with each other like it's a legit thing. And
Wow.
so we were like, well, okay, and here's the kick. She was married too. Her husband was stationed somewhere else, but he was abusive, and she had a
Wow.
daughter.
Wow.
So for us, we were like, okay, we're gonna do this. Like, yo, we're gonna do this for real because it's a kid involved, and we both have crazy husbands. Yeah, we gotta know, And
Man.
so when I got stationed in Virginia, that was probably the breaking point when I was like, okay, I have to really decide what I want to do because I can't tell my first husband that I want to get divorced because this man might kill me. Mind you, he was already cheating, but I was like, he's kind of cuckoo. But we both were still in the military. And so she got out. I was still in, and she asked me, could she come to Virginia with her daughter? And at the time, I had just got saved. And I remember I typed her this letter and I was like, I got saved. I gave my life to Christ. I was like, we could be great friends. I was like, I still love you. I still care about you. But, I don't want to see anything happen to you. But I was like, I really have to pray about it. And so at the time,
Mm.
I talked to my pastor's wife and I told her, I went to dinner with her and I told her, I was like, yeah, like I really love this girl. And, I told her about the relationship. I was like, I don't want her to be out back with her daughter. She should come to Virginia. I was like, I'm not going to try to be with her, anything like that. But at the time, my pastor's wife was like, yeah, no. Because one, my first husband, he had just died. So it was like, that
Mm.
space was open. So in my mind,
Hold
I'm
on,
Mm.
you
telling you,
throwing a
I
little
got a whole lot of
too
stuff.
much random
I'm sorry.
bombs here, and we're just like, her
Yes.
husband is dead. What happened?
Okay, I'm
Like you can't
sorry.
be. The
Okay,
audience
I'm
is
sorry.
listening. They're just you jump from chapter
Did I
19 to
tell you?
45. What?
At least say at that point my husband had an
Oh,
accident,
okay.
something like bring
So
that in.
I told you I
You
thought
know?
okay.
Right.
Okay, so rewind.
No, you
I'm gonna
good. We
rewind and then
got you.
pause. Okay, so coming back from
Okay.
Iraq, we were already I wasn't saved or anything like that. My first husband, we were already like on the fence with things. He was in a motorcycle club. And I got saved when he started the motorcycle club. The Sunday that he finally decided to come to church, they were on like this route in Maryland. And so he's like, well, I'll come next Sunday. So I'm in church on that Sunday and he died when I was in church. It's a long story behind it. That's probably another podcast with that. But he died in a motorcycle accident. And so that's how I ended up in Virginia. And so after that,
Mm.
probably because I guess now I can go back to where we were with her.
Were y'all at the point when
Mm-hmm.
he died, or at the point where he was
Mm-hmm.
gonna come to church? Were y'all still on that rocky
Yes, it
relationship?
was
Like
all the way
how?
up,
So it
until that
nothing.
point. He still was talking to other women, even women in the motorcycle club. Like I would find things, but I wasn't really that concerned because I still was, on the fence, and I was thinking about getting
Yeah.
saved, and then I didn't know because I didn't know the whole church thing. I just was like, okay, somebody invited me to a
Mm-hmm.
Christian rap concert. I don't know what that is. I don't, that Christians rap. I don't know nothing about that, but if you invite me, I'm gonna come, because it's rap and I love rap. And so, yeah, because
That
I
is
didn't
funny.
know, I'm telling y'all, I didn't know anything about Christianity at all, like nothing in that manner.
Do you know who it was that you were invited to the Christian
Yes,
rap
it
artist?
was back during that time. It was like Van Zeddy, Absolute, who ended up being like my buddy. Absolute was one of the people. That's when they had like Wonder Fam, like everybody. That's when every NR, all the people were there.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that's the first time I had ever seen anything like that. I was like, wait, church people rap? I was like, what? Like I was like, mind you, I came from a different era. So got saved and I asked God, I said, okay, can I be gay and serve you? I literally asked God. I said, if I could be gay and serve you, that'd be so dope because my husband just died. and we could work this thing out, because I hadn't heard anything about you're going to. Well, yes, I did. I did. I left a part out about when we came from a deployment and we was in Colorado, our first deployment, and one of my friends wanted to go to church because one of my friends actually got saved, and we walked in this church, and this lady told us, she straight up was like, "Y'all going to hell," and I'm like, so
Dang.
mind you,
Dang.
back then, my mouth wasn't as nice as it is now. So we're talking in our group, and we like, lady, we just came from hell, and we're literally about to go back. We just came from a 15-month deployment, and 3 months from now, we had already got orders a week after we came home saying we're going back for 15 more months when the war had just started. So in our mind,
Mm.
you're like, oh, we just came from hell, and we going back. Our friends had died, all that stuff. So I'm like, I'm off church, like, for real, this what we doing? So I never stepped foot in the church again, because I was like, I don't know that culture, and I was like, I don't even know if that's true that I'm gonna go to hell because I'm gay. I never heard that. I don't even think I heard anybody talk about being gay in the church. So we were just like, whatever, we just not going back to church. We're gonna go to the club tonight and get ourselves together, and then we're gonna get ready to deploy. So fast forward, get saved, and I asked God. I went to the altar and I asked God, I said, is it okay for me to still be gay and serve you? It wasn't like he was like, no, it was just, I just, in my heart, I just felt like it was wrong. So mind you, she's still alive. She's going through all this stuff. She's trying to decide whether she's going to go back to the army and deploy to Afghanistan, or, what she's going to do. Because by now she left her husband, and my husband had just died. So long story short, I said, no. I said, but I'll come see you in Texas before you leave. But I got saved, and Holy Spirit was like, no, no, you cannot go. No. So I
Mm.
didn't go. Well, 8 months after that, she got killed in Afghanistan. And so yeah, it was a lot.
Wow.
It was a lot. She got killed in Afghanistan, and I was like, okay, God, for real, like, husband died. Then this girl died. I said, yeah,
Mm.
you're not playing with me. So then right after she dies, 8 months later, my grandma dies. Then a year later, my best friend died. So I was like, I'm just gonna take a break from the Lord for a second, because maybe in my mind, I'm like, maybe I made something that happened. So I go back to DC. And so I go back to
Right.
DC, and I meet this girl who is a stripper. Lord Jesus, y'all help me. And she had 2 kids. Right.
T Pain
Right.
song "I'm Loaded Stripper." That was your thing when you just walked. That
It
would be
was
the
bad.
song playing for
And she
you.
has 2 kids, but she's the god sister of one of my friends. So she has 2 kids. And I'm like, me, I have a heart when I see people in bad situations. I always want to help. So in my mind, I had this
Mm.
savior mentality of like, I want to treat a woman
Mm.
the
Yeah.
way that a man did not treat her. So I was always like, it didn't matter if they treated me a certain way. I just wanted them to
Yep.
feel loved and that they were beautiful, and all those things that I wanted a man to say to me, or the things I wanted my father to affirm in me. And so this girl was like,
Mm.
I felt bad after it happened because I was in that backslidden state, and she thought that we were going to be together. And I was rolling a little E that night, and we slept together, and she thought we were going to be a thing, and I literally was like, yeah, I can't do this, and I felt so convicted, and that was it for me. And once I was like, I'm not gonna go that route again, I had worship leaders try to holler at me. I had people that I went to witness to that were like, "Oh, you sure you're not gonna go back to that life?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no." That was something that immediately fell off for me. The desires, the thoughts of it. And because I believe me falling into that lifestyle of homosexuality was more so because mine was a love thing for me, my perception of love. So you weren't coming for
Mm.
who I was sleeping with, who I was having sex with. In my mind, you're coming for who I love. So whereas my husband, he told y'all how his happened because of what happened in his childhood for with the molestation. But for me, I was more so
Yeah.
like, I didn't see a man or a woman. I saw somebody who loved me and that I wanted to treat well. And so it was never about the sexual part of it for me. It was more so
Wow.
trying to fill a void that I thought. And if you think about it now, it's backwards. I'm not a man. I can't I can't give a woman that, but in my mind, I was like, this is probably the best relationship this woman probably has ever had. No one has ever treated her this good. But inwardly, I'm like, and I'm just okay that she appreciates this and I don't have to deal with the abuse, the cheating, all these things. So it never crossed my mind that it was, like wrong. I was like, well, so. Mm-hmm.
It makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense.
So I'm like, wait, it's so much more. I'm just like, well, whatever y'all want to ask me, I'm gonna open any of those doors.
I mean, you just be
I
dropping
know.
bombs
That's
left and
why
right.
I was.
So I don't know what we're gonna be getting. You next thing you know, you're gonna be like, you're also the queen of
No, I wish
Ethiopia.
I
Like,
was. I was
we.
not playing. I wish I was. I wish I was. That's some money, but no, but it was just it was to the point that I don't think I've ever been tempted. I've never been tempted to go back into that lifestyle. But I know that that was a lifestyle that was really calling me, because it's like people that I thought were like in the church, because like I told y'all, I didn't grow up in church. So I had people that I was cool with that like I would let come stay over my house, and I'm like, why are you walking around my house in your underwear? Like, not like I'm looking, but it's just after I've told you my testimony, and it's like, you real, what is something going on? Like, it just was, I was like, did I miss something? Did you leave your pajamas? Because I got extra stuff. It was just, it was just weird. I had this one, I'm
You're
serious,
bad
like, because
naive.
in my mind you, I'm thinking like,
Yo,
no
did
one
you
in
leave?
church is doing this. You know what I'm saying? So this is a safe zone. I done told my little testimony. These are women are saved and holy, and I'm safe. I know I'm good. But what I found out was a lot of the women that I would be cool with, inwardly, maybe that was something they struggled with and they had never experienced that. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
that, maybe, but the enemy would have used that opportunity had I not been delivered, for them to, that would have been their first time with a woman or those situations. And it's kind of like, it was weird at times, because I would even have someone, you vicariously trying to live through those experiences that I had. So you asking me more and more questions, but you're not asking me from the standpoint of,
Mm,
well, where were you at with God in this so I can minister to somebody else? Or when this thing comes to me, it was always
Yeah.
like, oh my God,
right.
like for real? And then da 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 da. And then later on, yeah,
So have you tried
do
this?
you hear
Right.
me?
How was
Why
that?
Like, why
you
you
need
need to
those details?
know?
Like, help me help you. And so what freaked me out was that I was like, it's when I first got the Holy Spirit, and I was so pressed, right? I was so pressed I spoke in tongues. And we had this outside event. Y'all don't know, I was pressed. We had this outside event, and I had heard this one girl sing, and I thought she could sing her face off. I heard her sing somewhere else. And I was like, dang, it'd be so dope to invite her to come to our outside event for the youth. I'm thinking like she's this amazing worship leader. Now, mind you, I've probably only been saved like a year. So she comes to the thing to sing. She gets off the stage and she's like, "You are so beautiful." And I'm like, and I always give people compliments. So I ain't thinking nothing of it. Like, you're this amazing worship leader, and you're dope. I want to be a worship leader like that. I'm looking at that. Y'all, when I found out that this girl was trying to holler at me, I was like, yeah, I'm good. I was like, no. And my heart was broke, because I was like, I just saw you like up there leading people in worship. And
Mm,
you don't know that I'm praying to God, like, Lord, I need to be right, because I want to lead worship like that. I know you gave me a voice to do da 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 da. So I'm looking to this person I'm pulling on what I believe is on their life. And they're secretly like, yo, what's up? And then I found out that yo, what's up is a real thing. And I'm like, this is what y'all do? Oh no, I don't do that. Because I've always been very
man.
transparent. I'm like, if this is who I am, this is who I am. Like, even when I met my husband, now Al, we were like good friends. We sung in a group together. And so we were friends. And while he was actually going through what he was going through, he would call me and he'd be like, yo, I got the desire, da, da, da. And I'd be on the phone with him, but he was my buddy. So I never, looked at him differently or whatever. And then we tried, y'all, it's funny. We tried to date like 3 times, and I was like, we kept breaking up. And it was so funny to me, because I was like, man, we just supposed to be friends. Let's just be cool. And I tried to jack it up, because I was like, I'm not even attracted to you. But But I had to say that, and then years later, like we laugh at it because it was like, you know what? I wasn't, because what I was delivered from, you was still in it. So to me, it was literally like one day he was attractive to me, and then I looked at him and I was like, yeah, no, something ain't right. And then it was like what I could articulate was that I wasn't attracted to him. I wasn't really, strong in my discernment then, but I was like, yeah, years later, he's like, no, you saw what was going on with me. You just couldn't. It was like I was disgusted and I couldn't understand why. I'm like, this is my boyfriend, like, and I was like, we're not gonna be together
Mm.
because in my mind, like, I'm not attracted to you, and that's not happening. So when we got married, this was the hardest part, was because I was very transparent about my deliverance. And I think that I assumed, because when I asked God to take that desire from me, and when the Lord told me that no, it wasn't right to be gay and serve him, that I dropped it. I assumed that that is how it happened for everybody. You know what I mean? And so
Mm.
we're
Yeah.
married, and I'm like, okay, we're together, but we're not together. It will be times that I'd be like, I feel like there's another man in the room with us. Like, I literally would say that to him, not knowing all the stuff that was happening, behind the scenes. And so the first time
Mm.
things got exposed, I was like, well, I can't be mad, because I came in with the thought process that, it could happen. It was in your flesh. It happened to you before. You very well could go back to that left unchecked, And so when it happened,
Right.
I was not shocked the first time. I was more so. I told him, I said, I was more so disappointed, because I was like, you could tell me anything. But what we came to the conclusion that it's like, no, but the enemy wanted that thing, wanted him to be ashamed, wanted him to hide it, because he wanted him to keep going on with that lifestyle. So we were married. We were married about 6 years.
Mm.
So we always say, like, the first four, we don't even know what happened, girl. It was grace. But and so
Wow.
it will be certain things, like I get up in the morning and it'll be like, oh, some guy tried to talk to him. Or like I would literally minding my business, Holy Spirit would like show me something, like another man. Or it would be like I'm sitting there while he's on the phone with the person, like I could feel like as if I'm there with him. And so I was a person that
Mm.
I dealt with a lot of anger and rage. And so my bloodline is real weird with that. And so I was like, well, I love him and I don't ever want to take my mind there. But I was like, I understand this is a battle. So I'm in between places, like, okay, this is your husband, but he's battling right now. Like, he's really fighting for his life. How do you address that and still be the wife and still not be broken?
Right.
So I kept saying, well, this is a safe place. You can come to me if something happens. If you have a desire, if somebody approaches you, like, you can come to me and say whatever you need to say. Like, we gonna figure this out. I got you. And so it went on a few years. It was like, oh, things are cool, da 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 da. So I thought, and then he hit me with this. I don't know. He told y'all that he wrote out this letter. He typed me this letter with everything in it that he ever
Uh.
done, and he told me, yes.
Oh no, he did not. He
Oh,
probably was
okay.
going
So
to save
boom,
that
we'll save that
for
then for when we're
the
together.
next
But just
episode.
know,
Yeah. I don't want you to get
okay,
too deep
okay.
into like y'all marriage because like we might want
I
to say
got
that
you,
for
because
the next
yeah, that
episode.
is some
But
stuff. But yeah, since then, like from well, then we'll pause on that. But I can't wait to tell that story. It's funny now, but back then I was like, yeah, but I'm going to jail.
mm,
But it was like, but I really honestly could say, like, you know how some people are like, they still every now and then you have that desire, or a dream will come, or a
mm,
memory will come, and you'll be like, whoa, or you can't go certain places. For me, it lit
yeah,
it was not like that for me. And I was like, and was so
man,
when I hear other people, because I've heard people say, like, it's certain people that I listen to that have been delivered, they're married, have kids, and I listen to them like on YouTube and things like that. And they're like, oh no, I talk to my husband when I have dreams about my ex. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't have any dreams about my ex. Like, I'm not saying like I'm condemning that person or saying they're not delivered, but I'm just like,
mm-hmm.
I always ask God, okay, well, why was it literally like just, yeah. And
Snatched
I
out.
I never understood that. So me and my husband would have that conversation. I'm like, You mean to tell me that, you battled back then with that? It was just like a light switch for me. And so I never understood it. Now other
Mm,
things stuck longer than that, but that part it just didn't.
that's
Mhm.
definitely something to be thankful about because
Mhm.
I don't want to say that's the majority, but from who I've met, that seems to
Mhm.
be the majority of, you know, we on the
Mhm.
straight and
Mhm.
narrow, holiness is still right. I kind of
Mhm.
got this desire, or I just
Mhm.
had this crazy dream. Like, that's
Mhm.
typically seems to be the norm
Mhm.
for a lot of people. But for you to be like, ain't
Mhm.
nothing happened, no dream, no nothing. And it may be the fact of that wasn't like a really
Mhm.
big stronghold for you. While somebody else who's been
Right.
doing that since day two is a bit much more of a stronghold.
Mhm.
Say it may be more of a tug
Mhm.
where like for me,
Mhm.
smoking weed, drink alcohol, all that, like
Mhm.
no desire, no tempting, none of this. It's just like, no, when I
Right.
smell it, it smells
Mhm.
nasty. Like all that is gone, but it
Mhm.
wasn't a big stronghold because it was like I did it for
Mhm.
like a couple of months, smoking wise, couple of months, drinking, couple
Right.
of years, and then that was it. While as for homosexuality, I've been in that thing since whatever
Mhm.
young age, stuff like that. So it
Yeah.
may be something like that too.
Yeah,
So still be thankful.
yeah, that reminds me of something that your husband said actually last night. He was like, so, he says not saying that God can't just be like
Mhm.
delivered. Like he's like that is very much true, but that's probably really not
Right.
the thing that really
Right.
has you bound. You know, especially we like to highlight like, oh, I'm
Right.
free from the drugs. I'm free from 10 years. I was doing 10 years.
Mhm.
I'm free. God is good. God is good. That's
Mhm.
great. We rejoice, but that's not really
Right.
the thing. Then, like, what is it then that isn't really talked about, or that
Mhm.
is deeper than that? Like,
Right.
are you a habitual liar? Like we don't.
Mhm.
Do you gossip? That's like you just go you tell somebody you've
Yeah.
been delivered from that. And not
Mhm.
saying that we're doubting like your deliverance, but we tend to highlight the things that is known as like, oh,
Yeah,
God
like
delivers
that's
from drugs. That's
yeah.
that's yeah, yeah. And so for some, it's like like Kamara was saying, like for you, like it's still good to hear your testimony because yes, you are have been delivered from, you don't have any desires or anything like that, but you definitely show like from a perspective of how people can get caught up in this based on
Yeah.
similar paths that people are taking, the
Mhm.
lack of love, the root
Yeah.
of rejection that's still there, the
Association.
I'm telling you.
association, the fact that when it's time for me to share my testimony,
Mhm.
because I played sports, I played basketball, and I dressed.
Mhm.
Looking back at some of the pictures, I found these
Mhm.
pictures from my mom's house, and like looking back, you would have been like, "Yeah, we knew she was
Mhm.
probably gay," but no, we literally wore clothes that was given to us in a
Mhm.
bag. So like it would be big
Mhm.
shirts. It would be big because
Right.
not because I wanted to be big,
Right.
because
That's what I
clothes was in
had.
the bag, you know.
Mhm.
And I played basketball, so everybody was putting two and two together. Like, so literally that
Mhm.
followed me. People was like, "Oh, you gay?" No, I'm not gay. No, I like boys. Am I
Mhm.
worried about boys right now? No, I want to go climb a tree, or I want to go do something else, or I want to go play basketball. I wasn't worried about
Right.
being in a boy's face. So it was just like, why
Mhm.
did these associations with people can
Yep.
literally begin to grow on you? And it really is a
Yeah.
spiritual attachment. Spirits transfer. Now that we know like more deeper into
Mhm.
like spiritual warfare and stuff
Mm,
like that, there are spiritual transfers. So you thinking like,
Right.
oh, I'm just hanging with these folks, or I'm just da 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 da, or it doesn't matter that so and so watches my kid
Mhm.
and she's in a lifestyle. If that don't You literally have to watch who is
Right.
influencing your soul. Like who's
Right.
influencing you, who you're around,
Mhm.
what you listening to, what do you put in. It goes back to all of that. So to hear it from a perspective of, yeah, you were normally seeing
Mhm.
strippers it still wasn't a desire like for you to
Mhm.
want women, and so people think like
Yeah.
just hearing it from a just a different
Because
perspective,
it was
it has
like
just
Right.
definitely
you
been great
are
tonight.
desensitized to a lot of things because it becomes your norm. You know what I mean? So it's like, and that was good what you were saying about the difference between the stronghold, because my thing that I fought with the most, and I believe I always say is my little thorn in my side, is when it comes to rage, like that type of thing, anger, those type of things. And so for me, if you battle with identity issues, it's like whoever, is with you, that's who you're gonna become. And so you don't deal with the
Mm,
deeper things because it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm delivered from this one thing, and maybe yes, this is like the prize to be delivered from. You know what I mean? And so it's not a prize to say,
Right.
hey, I dealt with murderous rage and I'm delivered from it, or I have to really cast down thoughts. Now, those thoughts I would have to cast down times 10 because my.
wow.
Hmm.
And that's interesting because Al was talking about last
Hmm.
night. That's what he has to do
Yes.
is cast down his thoughts. While for you, you're just
Right.
like, I gotta make sure I just don't kill you
And
tonight.
see, the thing about it is, it's like then when you're exposed to it in war and you're trained in it to do a certain thing, to be hyper vigilant, to be on alert, to be able to defend yourself, and then you grow up in an aggressive
Wow.
area where everything is violent. It's like,
Yep.
yeah, then you come to
Dog eat
church and it's
dog.
like,
Yeah.
they said what? Sideways? Oh, okay. So you grow up a certain way. Like my grandma, we grew up, my grandma told us how to put razor blades in our mouth because you got to get on the metro to go to school. So you learn things differently. So you come to church and you
Wow.
like, okay, this person just checked you. Like they like Jesus, you gonna take my hood card? Like it was hard for me to put down that
Hmm.
anger and that immediate rage. That was harder than the homosexuality drop, me taking ecstasy drop, smoking black and
Wow.
miles drop, the club drop, all those things drop, watching porn drop. But when it came to sister such and such said whatever, and I can't check her, that was a hard thing for me because I was like, and I'm just in this because they're wrong. But it was like, no, Holy Spirit was checking me times, and that has been the buffeting of my flesh and fighting my flesh. That is one of my things that's a part of, I know, lifelong, because that's on my bloodline with a lot of women in my family. Like they are extremely.
Mm.
Listen, I'm probably don't.
So in a sense, you're literally right now trying to, through the help of the Holy
Yeah,
Spirit,
and that's why
break
I
that
was.
generational curse.
Well, you'll find that out on the next interview. So it's like when I was able to, when Holy Spirit was able to let me have self control in different situations. That's when I was like, oh, we doing something now, because like people go from 0 to 100. I'd be like, no, 0 to 1 million, and then you legally can do it because you're in the military and you deploy, so nobody messes with you. You at war, so then you come home and everybody's, you're trying to adjust to that. And so to not be able to respond once I got saved, I was just like, okay, Lord, you must go and camp some angels around these hands or something, because I'm like, and it's so
Man.
sad because it would be, it didn't matter. It would be kids, elderly, anybody, just that it was just almost like it was just so uncontrollable mentally. I would have to shut down.
It's crazy. It's like I could, in a sense, and I don't know why I can hear you saying this because I've had people tell me this, but they'll be like, these hands are ready for eat, ready for
Dang.
everybody, kids, babies. It don't matter. Everybody can get it.
Mhm.
That
Back
sounds
in the
like
day,
something that
in
you
my
would be
mind, because
saying.
I could, it was like, and it's not, it's it's right, ready to eat.
Ready to
Everybody
eat.
said no, but it's like, and then it consumes you. That anger will consume you to a point that, and because I'm not a person who's like aggressive like that, I love being around people. I'm probably one of the nicest people, but because of that trauma from childhood in a certain way, then your trauma is trained when you get in the military on how to do it right. It's trained.
Wow, your
You trained to
Hmm.
go
trauma
when you in
is
the military. So you
trained.
get, yeah, you get a
Trauma
license
turned
to
to a
Wow.
to just
sniper.
snap when you want to. So I would
License to
isolate when I would get in
wow.
those moments. I would isolate because I'm like, I don't want to hurt nobody, even with my words. And so I would be like, oh my God, oh Lord. So then you battle with the anger, then you battle with the PTSD, then you sit in church, you're like, but God has healed me. And so that's when I realized, like, even going back to the homosexuality thing, I was like, maybe that was a distraction to what was really going on. But because that was the thing that
Mm-hmm.
it still boils down to love. It still boils down to me always wanting somebody
Right.
to feel welcome, to feel wanted, to feel affirmed, to feel like they have value. So if I could sacrifice myself
Right.
for somebody to feel that in those situations, I would do it. It just so happens that that part came out of homosexuality, but it also came out when I would beat up people for my friends who wouldn't fight because I felt like somebody was bullying them. So it's always been
Yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
carelessness of myself for other people. So if you needed love, I'm gonna give you love. You know what I'm saying? That's why it could be a man or a woman. But just so happened that women approached me. They were the most needy at the time, I guess. And maybe I look like, hey, I'm just open right now, like Boo Boo the Food or something. I'm just open to
Right.
cater to you or something.
Right.
I don't know, but yeah.
Right. But
Wow.
Yeah.
we are literally like running out of time. So if you could say one thing to the body of Christ, like one thing to whatever that's to critique or to encourage, what is
Okay.
that one
My
thing
one
in a
thing
minute or
is
less?
don't assume that everybody who is a homosexual, transgender, or within the alphabet crew that they want to stay in that lifestyle. You should be led by compassion. Get to know them. Talk to them. Maybe they don't know the Jesus you know. Don't assume that everybody has heard that it's wrong to be gay or that they even know what the Bible says about homosexuality. So yeah, that's what I would tell people in the Bible. Because they
Man.
assume that you
And
know.
that's good. That's
Everybody don't
good. But
know. They don't know. Mm-hmm.
that is true.
You're right. You're
That
right.
is true. But man,
Wow,
we
this
thank
was
you
fast.
so much
I was
for
like,
being up
yeah,
here,
girl,
So
Rodney.
and
much.
then no I'm playing. No. Oh,
It
yes.
do be fast. It do
It
be
do
fast.
be
We have like a
fast.
lot to say.
It is.
Praise God.
There'll be more.
Oh
Don't
Lord.
they? There'll be more. There'll be more
Amen.
as the Lord leads us to. But we definitely
Well,
appreciate
thank
your
y'all.
time and your testimony, and it definitely will help a lot of people. Um,
Well,
so yeah.
oh, I feel bad now. We about to get off. And look, we just staring like,
Oh,
okay.
It's all good.
it's
It's all
all
good.
good.
But this has been another episode of Friends in Ministry.
Yes, it has. So thanks for tuning in. Until next
Bye.
time. Bye.